Hello, hello. Making sure I'm live today. I am. Everything is good. Hello, good morning. So glad to be here with you. Let's put this. Good morning. I'm excited to be here with you today. A little bit of a different background, as you can see. I am in Southern California this week, and I'm at my parents' house, so I am so excited to be here, and it's been a great week since I've been here. Had a great weekend. I hope all of you had an amazing weekend that we're here in the States celebrating the 250th anniversary of America and had a safe weekend. And what's really exciting about today is we are officially halfway. We're officially halfway through the weekly word Bible in a year. We are in week 27, and though we haven't hit the New Testament yet, we are so close. We are in Daniel this week, and I'm really excited about Daniel because of a number of different things, just because of the meaning of Daniel, what Daniel did, and what he represents in this journey that we're on, coming out of Ezekiel last week, which was very powerful, and going right into Daniel. So I'm going to go ahead and start us off with prayer. Lord, thank you so much for today. Thank you so much for your blessings, your favor. Thank you so much for your lessons. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for giving us the courage to share your word. Thank you for being there for us during times of uncertainty. Thank you for being there for us when things are certain and we are in a great place and the blessings that you've given us have come forward. Lord, thank you for you as always. Without you, we are nothing, and we're so grateful. And Lord, as we dive into Daniel today, please edify the things that are most important to you and what you want us to hear this week. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So, Daniel. Daniel is a pretty well known book here in the Bible, just like I've kind of said with a lot of the characters, right? I say characters because it's this story in this book. It's, so many people that were just chosen in so many different walks of life and where they were in their lives. And with Daniel, they say he was young, so teenager, so really anywhere between 14 to 17 years old. And he was taken captive um, from Jerusalem to Babylon during the first Babylonian exile. And we've been reading a lot about that and the exiles. And this is roughly around 605 BC. And the thing with Daniel is that he was really kind of forced to be in a service of one of the most powerful empires in the world at the time. Unlike some of the other prophets, Daniel didn't preach to Israel. He lived among what, they would call in the Bible pagan kings and served in a government that didn't honor God. And we see that time and time and time again, right? Just like we had done in Ezekiel, just like we had seen in Jeremiah. And with this, it was nearly 70 years. And me in Numbers, we talked a lot about 40 years, people serving. And now we're jumping into the sevens. So for nearly 70 years, he served under multiple kings. So Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar, Darius the Mede, and Cyrus the Great. And there were a lot of things that, whether it's his circumstances, the government, the leaders, the culture, but Daniel's faith was among the biggest. Now, we're going to start in the first chapter. So, during the third year of King Jehoiakim's reign in Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave him victory over King Jehoiakim of Judah and permitted him to take some of the sacred objects from the temple of God. So Nebuchadnezzar took them back to the land of Babylonian, placed them in the treasure house of his God. Then the king ordered Asaphat, his chief of staff, to bring to the palace some of the young men of Judah's royal family and other noble families who had been brought to Babylon as captives. Select only strong, healthy, and good-looking young men, he said. Make sure they are well versed in every branch of learning, are gifted with knowledge and good judgment, and are suited to serve in the royal palace. Train these young men in the language and literature of Babylon. The king assigned them a daily ration of food and wine from his own kitchens. They were to be trained for 3 years, and then they would enter the royal service. Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah were 4 of the young men chosen, all from the tribe of Judah. The chief of staff renamed them with these Babylonian names. Daniel was called Belteshazzar, Hananiah was called Shadrach, Mishael was called Meshach, and Azariah was called Abednego. But Daniel was determined not to defile himself by eating the food and wine given to them by the king. He asked the chief of staff for permission not to eat these unacceptable foods. Now God had given the chief of staff both respect and affection for Daniel, but he responded, I am afraid of the Lord the king, who has ordered that you eat this food and wine. If you become pale and thin compared to the other youths your age, I am afraid the king will have me beheaded. Daniel spoke with the attendant who had been appointed by the chief of staff to look over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Please test us for 10 days on a diet of vegetables and water, Daniel said. At the end of those 10 days, see how we look compared to the other young men who are eating the king's food. Then make your decision in light of what you see. The attendant agreed to Daniel's suggestion and tested them for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, Daniel and his 3 friends looked healthier and better nourished than the young men who had been eating the food assigned by the king. So after that, the attendant fed them only vegetables instead of the food and wine provided for the others. God gave these 4 young men unusual aptitude for understanding every aspect of literature and wisdom, and God gave Daniel the special ability to interpret the meanings of visions and dreams. When the training period ordered by the king was completed, the chief of staff brought all the young men to King Nebuchadnezzar. The king talked with them, and no one impressed him as much as Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So they entered the royal service. Whenever the king consulted them in a matter requiring wisdom and balanced judgment, he found them 10 times more capable than any of the magicians and enchanters in his entire kingdom. Daniel remained in the royal service until the first year of the reign of King Cyrus. Nebuchadnezzar's dream. One night during the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had such disturbing dreams that he couldn't sleep. He called in his magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers, and he demanded that they tell him what he had dreamed. As they stood before the king, he said, I had a dream that deeply troubles me, and I must know what it means. The astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, Long live the king, tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means. But the king said to the astrologers, I am serious about this. If you don't tell me what my dream was and what it means, you will be torn limb from limb, and your houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. But if you tell me what I dreamed and what the dream means, I will give you many wonderful gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means. They said again, Please, your majesty, tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means. The king replied, I know what you are doing. You're stalling for time because you know I am serious when I say, if you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. But tell me the dream, and I'll know that you can tell me what it means. The astrologers replied to the king, No one on earth can tell the king his dream, and no king, however great and powerful, has ever asked such a thing of a magician, enchanter, and astrologer. The king's demand is impossible. No one except the gods can tell you your dream, and they do not live here among people. The king was furious when he heard this, and he ordered that all the wise men of Babylon be executed. And because of the king's decree, men were sent to find and kill Daniel and his friends. When Arioch, the commander of the king's guard, came to kill them, Daniel handled the situation with wisdom and discretion. He asked Arioch, Why has the king issued with such a harsh decree?" So Arioch told him all that had happened. Daniel went at once to see the king and requested more time to tell the king what the dream meant. When Daniel went home and told his friends Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah what had happened, he urged them to ask God of heaven to show them his mercy by telling them what the secret, so they would not be executed along with the other wise men of Babylon. That night the secret was revealed to Daniel in a vision. Then Daniel praised the God of heaven, and he said, "Praise the name of God forever and ever, for all his wisdom and power. He controls the course of world events, he removes kings and sets up other kings. He gives them wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the scholars. He reveals deep and mysterious things and knows what lies hidden in darkness, though he is surrounded by light. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors, for you have given me wisdom and strength. You have told me what he has asked of you and revealed to us what the king demanded." When Daniel went to see Arioch, whom the king had ordered to execute the wise men of Babylon, Daniel said to him, "Don't kill the wise men. Take me to the king, and I will tell him the meaning of his dream." Arioch quickly took Daniel to the king and said, "I have found one of the captives from Judah who will tell the king the meaning of his dream." The king said to Daniel, "Is this true? Can you tell me what the dream was and what it means?" Daniel replied, "There are no wise men, enchanters, magicians, or fortune tellers who can reveal the king's secret, but there is a God in heaven who reveals secrets, and he has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in the future. Now I will tell you your dream and the visions you saw as you lay on your bed. While your majesty was sleeping, you dreamed about coming events. He who reveals secrets has shown what is going to happen. And it is not because I am wiser than anyone else that I know the secret of your dream, but because God wants you to understand what was in your heart. In your vision, your majesty, you saw standing before you a huge shining statue of a man. It was a frightening sight. The head of the statue was made of fine gold. Its chest and arms were silver, its belly and thighs were bronze, its legs were iron, and its feet were a combination of iron and baked clay. As you watched, a rock cut from the mountain, but not by human hands, it struck the feet of iron and clay, smashing them to bits. The whole statue was crushed into small pieces of iron, clay, bronze, silver, and gold. Then the wind blew them away without a trace, like chaff on a threshing floor. But the rock was knocked the statue down, and it became a great mountain that covered the whole earth. That was the dream. Now we will tell the king what it means. Your majesty, you are the greatest of kings. The God of heaven has given you sovereignty, power, strength, and honor. He has made you the ruler over an all inhabited world and has put even the wild animals and birds under your control. You are the head of gold. But when your kingdom comes to an end, another kingdom inferior to yours will rise to take your place. After that kingdom has fallen, yet a third kingdom, represented by bronze, will rise to rule the world. Following that kingdom, there will be a fourth one as strong as iron. The kingdom will smash and crush all the previous empires, just as iron smashes and crushes everything it strikes. The feet and toes you saw were a combination of iron and baked clay, showing that the kingdom will be divided. Like iron mixed with clay, it will have some strength of iron. But while some parts of it will be strong as iron, other parts will be as weak as clay. This mixture of iron and clay also shows that kingdoms will try to strengthen themselves by forming alliances with each other through the intermarriage, but they will not hold together, just as iron and clay do not mix. During the reign of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed or conquered. It will crush all these kingdoms into the nothingness and will stand forever. That is the meaning of the rock cut from the mountain, though not by human hands, that crushed into pieces the statue of iron, bronze, clay, silver, and gold. The great God was showing the king what will happen in the future. The dream is true, and its meaning is certain. The king Nebuchadnezzar threw himself down before Daniel and worshipped him, and he commanded his people to offer sacrifices and burn sweet incense for him. The king said to Daniel, "Truly your God is the greatest of gods, the Lord over kings, a revealer of mysteries, for you have been able to reveal the secret." Then the king appointed Daniel to a high position and gave him many valuable gifts. He made Daniel ruler over the whole province of Babylon, as well as chief over his wise men. At Daniel's request, the king appointed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as the charge of all these affairs of the province of Babylon, while Daniel remained in the king's court. Now, that was some pretty interesting context because, I find it really interesting because of the fact that there's, back in these times, there were still all of the magicians, enchanters, you have astrologers, and I know that in our time now, a lot of people look to astrology. A lot of people look to what they would call mediums or seers, or, and we've read about that in the Old Testament, and they had, some of these people that, say that they're able to interpret certain things. I mean, how many of us have had dreams that we wish we could better understand of, like, well, why did I have that specific dream? It seems really specific, very vivid. And what a beautiful gift that Daniel had. But it wasn't something that was so supernatural that it was, something that you couldn't, you know, believe, right? I mean, Daniel is seeking God in this and saying, hey, like, I want to know what this means. And in turn of that, Daniel is also saving all of these people, whether they be wrong or right, from certain death, right? And he's like, hey, take me to the king. I know what it means. Let me talk to him. And the fact that the king, as you notice, didn't really tell him exactly what the dream meant and what it, he was kind of like, you guys are wise, you guys need to figure it out and then tell me and I'll tell you if that's what it is. So it's kind of like a little bit of a trick, right? He's kind of tricking him a little bit of like, okay, well, you tell me what the dream is and what it means, and then you won't be harmed. So the reward for Daniel, was great. And as you go into chapter 3, it talks about this gold statue that Nebuchadnezzar made, a gold statue that was 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. So 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then he sent messages to the high officers, officials, governors, advisors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, and all the provincial officials to come to the dedication of the statue. So here we are, and this is, really what has been this trend throughout the Bible of people worshiping statues and other gods and other things, while you have God's people, even though they're, they've been sent, right, away into exile, they're still among the people. And, it talks about, but some of the astrologers went to the king and informed on the Jews. And they said, long live the king, you issued a decree requiring all people to bow down and worship the gold statue when they hear the sound of the horn. And Daniel and his friends, which I find it really interesting that we talk about Daniel so much, but we don't talk about the other three that were with him. So I really love that there was 4 of them, really, that only believed in the one true God. And in 3, he talks about how they were not going to be worshiping this statue. They were like, no, we're not doing it. Like, we're not doing it. We know that God's going to rescue us. We're not going to be doing this. God is able. And if he doesn't answer in the way that we expect, we still aren't going to bow to a statue. And so it says, I will give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And then what God will be able to rescue you from my power. So it says, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied, So that's their second names. O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If you are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. But even if he doesn't, we want to make it clear to you, your majesty, that we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue you have set up. So Nebuchadnezzar was furious with them. Now, Daniel's not involved in this, right? Um, and the king's face was then distorted with rage. He commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. Then he ordered some of the strongest men of the army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. So they tied them up and threw them into the furnace, fully dressed in their pants, turbans, robes, and other garments. And because the king, in his anger, had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, the flames killed the soldiers as they threw the men in there. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell into the roaring flames. But suddenly Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisers, "Didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace?" "Yes, your majesty, we certainly did," they replied. "Look," Nebuchadnezzar shouted, "I see 4 men, unbound, walking around in the fire unharmed, and the 4th looks like a god." Then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out, come here." So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers, officials, governors, advisors all crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their head was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell of smoke. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, "Praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defied the king's command and were willing to die rather serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make this decree. If any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb, and their houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. There is no other God who can rescue like this." So the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to even higher positions in the province of Babylon. Now, I'm sure, I just find it really interesting that you have to think about the times that we're in, right? People were executed, like no other back then. There was really no, it's as crazy as the stories are and how things were back then and the sacrifices that had to be made. These guys were thrown into a blazing furnace and were not touched. That in itself would have been so eye-opening, right? And if you think about times now, and you think about if someone is put into a blazing fire, 9 times out of 10 they're not going to be walking out of that fire. And so this was such a testament of them truly being like, hey, we're taking a stand. So the point here that I'm trying to make is that no matter where you're at, who you are, what you're doing, believing in God over anything and everything else is always going to save you, no matter what the outcome is. And that's a huge thing here inside of Daniel. So in chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar dreams about a tree. And the king sent the message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world and says, "Peace and prosperity to you. I want you all to know about the miraculous signs and wonders that the Most High God has performed for me. How great are his signs, how powerful his wonders. His kingdom will last forever, his rule through all generations. I, Nebuchadnezzar, was living in my palace in comfort and prosperity, but one night I had a dream that frightened me. I saw visions that terrified me as I lay in my bed, so I issued an order calling in all the wise men of Babylon so they could tell me what my dream meant. When all the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers came, I told them the dream, but they could not tell me what it meant. At last Daniel came in before me, and I told him the dream. He was named Belteshazzar, after my God, and the spirit of the holy gods in him. I said to him, Belteshazzar, chief of the magicians, I know that the spirit of the holy gods is in you, and that no mystery is too great for you to solve. Now tell me what my dream means. While I was lying in my bed, this is what I dreamed. I saw a large tree in the middle of the earth. The tree grew very tall and strong, reaching high into the heavens for all the world to see. It had fresh green leaves, and it was loaded with fruit for all to eat. Wild animals lived in its shade, and birds nested in its branches. All the world was fed from this tree. Then I lay there dreaming. I saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from heaven. The messenger shouted, Cut down the tree and lop off its branches, shake off its leaves and scatter its fruit. Chase the wild animals from its shade and birds from its branches, but leave the stump and the roots in the ground, bound with band of iron and bronze and surrounded by tender grass. Now let him be drenched with the dew of heaven, and let him live with wild animals among the plants of the field. For 7 periods of time, let him have the mind of a wild animal instead of the mind of human. For this has been decreed by the messengers. It is commanded by the holy ones, so that everyone must know that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world. He gives them to anyone he chooses, even the lowliest of people. Belteshazzar was the dream that I, King Nebuchadnezzar, had. Now tell me what it means, for none of the wise men of my kingdom can do so. But can you tell me because of the spirit of the holy gods in you? I find it so funny that they say that he's like this magician and that he's like the gods like around him, right? And it's people are crazy. But you also have to understand the time, right? That we're in. I mean, we're in 600 something BC, and there's no cell phones, no television, there's no modern day stuff, and this is all that people know. So Daniel explains this dream, and he says, Upon hearing this, Daniel was overcome for a time, frightened by the meaning. Then the king said to him, Belteshazzar, don't be alarmed by the dream and what it means. Belteshazzar replied, I wish these events foreshadowed in this dream would happen to your enemies, my lord, and not to you. The tree you saw growing was very tall and strong, reaching high into the heavens for all the world to see. It had fresh green leaves, and was loaded with fruit for all to eat, wild animals to live in its shade, and birds nested in its branches. That tree, your majesty, is you. For you have grown strong and great. Your greatness reaches up to heaven, and you rule to the ends of the earth. Then you saw a messenger, a holy one, coming down from heaven and saying, Cut down the tree and destroy it, but leave the stump and the roots in the ground, bound with a band of iron and bronze, surrounded by tender grass. Let him be drenched in the dew of heaven. Let him live with animals of the field for 7 periods of time. This is what the dream means, your majesty, and what the Most High has declared will happen to my lord the king. You will be driven from human society, and you will live in the fields with the wild animals. You will eat grass like a cow, and you will be drenched with dew of heaven. 7 periods of time will pass while you live this way, until you learn that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world and gives them to anyone he chooses. But the stump and roots of the tree were left in the ground. This means that you will receive your kingdom back again when you have learned that heaven rules. King Nebuchadnezzar, please accept my advice. Stop sinning and do what is right. Break from your wicked past and be merciful to the poor. Perhaps then you will continue to prosper. But all these things did happen to King Nebuchadnezzar. 12 months later, he was taking a walk on the flat roof of the royal palace in Babylon. As he looked across the city, he said, Look at this great city of Babylon, my own mighty powder. I have built this beautiful city as my royal residence to display my majestic splendor. While these words were still in his mouth, a voice called down from heaven, O King Nebuchadnezzar, this message is for you. You are no longer the ruler of this kingdom. You will be driven from human society. You will live in the fields and the wild animals, and you will eat grass like a cow. 7 periods of time will pass. You will live this way until you learn that the Most High rules over all the kingdoms of the world and gives them to anyone he chooses. The same hour the judgment was fulfilled, the Nebuchadnezzar was driven from human society. He ate grass like a cow and was drenched with the dew of heaven. He lived this way until his hair was as long as eagle feathers and his nails were like bird claws. After a time had passed, I, Nebuchadnezzar, looked up to heaven. My sanity returned, and I praised and worshipped the Most High and honored the one who lives forever. His ruling is everlasting, and his kingdom is eternal. All the people of earth are nothing compared to him. He does as he pleases among the angels of heaven and among the people of earth. No one can stop him or say to him, "What do you mean by these things?" When my sanity returned to me, so did my honor and glory and my kingdom. My advisers and nobles sought me out, and I was restored as head of my kingdom with even greater honor than before. Now, I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and glorify and honor the King of heaven. All of his acts are just and true, and he is able to humble the proud. So, as he is humbled by God over some time, he finally realizes that God is the one. God is the only one. And as we go into 5, it's talking about now we have, it's many years later. So Nebuchadnezzar is gone, and there's King Belshazzar. So Daniel had served, like I had said, 4 kings in his time. So we are on to the second king, and this is King Belshazzar. He gave a great feast for over 1,000 of his nobles, and he drank wine with them. While Belshazzar was drinking the wine, he gave orders to bring the gold and silver cups that his predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, had taken from the temple in Jerusalem. He wanted to drink from them with his nobles, his wives, and his concubines. So they brought these gold cups taken from the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. While they drank from them, they praised their idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Suddenly they saw a finger of a human handwriting on the plaster wall of the king's palace, near the lampstand. This is really important part here. The king himself saw the hand as he wrote, and his face turned pale with fright. His knees knocked together in fear, and his legs gave way beneath him. The king shouted for the enchanters, the astrologers, the fortune tellers to be brought before him. He said to these wise men of Babylon, "Whoever can read this writing and tell me what it means will be dressed in purple robes of royal honor and will have a gold chain placed around his neck. He will become the 3rd highest ruler in the kingdom." But when all the king's wise men had come in, none of them could read the writing or tell him what it meant. So the king grew even more alarmed, and his face turned pale. His nobles, too, were shaken. But when the queen mother heard of this happening, she hurried to the banquet hall. She said to Belshazzar, "Long live the king. Don't be pale and frightened. There is a man in your kingdom who has within him the spirit of the holy gods." During Nebuchadnezzar's reign, this man was found to have insight, understanding, and wisdom like of the gods. Your predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar, made him chief over all the magicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers of Babylon. This man Daniel, whom the king had named Belteshazzar, has exceptional ability and is filled with the divine knowledge and understanding. He can interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve difficult problems. Call for Daniel, and he will tell you what the writing means. So Daniel was brought in before the king, and the king asked him, "Are you Daniel, one of the exiles brought from Judah by my predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar? I have heard that you have the spirit of the gods within you and are filled with insight, understanding, and wisdom. My wise men and enchanters have tried to read the words on the wall and tell me their meaning, but they cannot do it. I am told that you can give interpretations and solve difficult problems. If you can read these words and tell me their meaning, you will be clothed in purple robes of royal honor, and you will have a gold chain placed around your neck. You will become the 3rd highest ruler in the kingdom." Daniel answered the king, "Keep your gifts or give them to someone else, but I will tell you what the writing means. Your Majesty, the Most High God, gave sovereignty, majesty, glory, and honor to your predecessor Nebuchadnezzar. He made him great so that all the people and races, nations, and languages trembled before him in fear. He killed those he wanted to kill and spared those he wanted to spare. He honored those who wanted honor and disgraced those he wanted to disgrace. But when his heart and mind were puffed with arrogance, he was brought down from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. He was driven from human society. He was given the mind of a wild animal, and lived among the wild donkeys. He ate grass like a cow and was drenched with the dew of heaven until he learned that the Most High God rules over the kingdoms of the world and appoints anyone he desires to rule over them. You are his successor, O Balazar. You know all of this, and yet you have not humbled yourself, for you have proudly defied the Lord of heaven and have had these cups from his temple brought before you. You and your nobles and your wives and your concubines have been drinking wine from them while praising gods of silver, gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, gods that neither see nor hear or know anything at all. But you have honored that God who gives you the breath of life and controls your destiny. So God has sent his hand to write this message. This is the message that was written. Many, many, tekel, and parshin. This is what the words mean. Many means numbered. God has numbered the days of your reign and has brought it to an end. Tekel means weighted. You have been weighed on the balances and have not measured up. Parshin means divided. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and Persians. Then at Palazar's command, Daniel was dressed in purple robes, a gold chain that was hung around his neck, and was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Palazar, the Babylonian king, was killed, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom at the age of 62. So that was the very short life of the second king, Balazar, and now we're over into Darius the Mede. And I find it interesting that this meaning, right, the many, many, tekel, and parshin. So it's really numbered, weighted, and divided. It's such a powerful thing that I believe that I've heard many times inside of this book, and when people talk about Daniel and, how your days are numbered and, the scales and the balances. And of course, chapter 6, one of the most popular of Daniel, and what a lot of times people think of Daniel when you hear, oh, the book of Daniel, right, is Daniel in the lion's den. So Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces, and he appointed high officers to rule over each. The king also chose Daniel and his two others as administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interest. Daniel soon proved himself more capable than all the other administrators and high officers. Because of Daniel's great ability, the king made plans to place him over the entire empire. The other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in any way that Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. So they concluded, our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be in connection with the rules of his religion. So the administrators and high officers went to the king and said, long live King Darius. We are all in agreement, administrators, officials, high officers, advisors, and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. And now, your majesty, issue and sign this law so it cannot be changed. So an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. So King Darius signed the law. But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down as usual in his upstairs room with his windows open towards Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had done before, giving thanks to his God. Then the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking for God's help. So they went straight to the king and reminded him about this law. Did you not sign a law for the next 30 days that any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions? Yes, the king replied. That decision stands. It is an official law of the Medes and Persians that cannot be revoked. Then they told the king, that man Daniel, one of the captives from Judah, is ignoring you and your law. He still prays to his God 3 times a day. Hearing this, the king was deeply troubled, and he tried to think of a way to save Daniel. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of the predicament. In the evening, the men went together to the king and said, Your Majesty, you know that according to the law of Medes and Persians, no law that the king has signed can be changed. So at the last, king So the last king gave orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the den of the lions. The king said to him, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. The king sealed the stone with his own royal seal and the seal of the nobles, so that no one could rescue Daniel. Then the king returned to the palace and spent the night fasting. He refused his usual entertainment and couldn't sleep all night. Very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish, "Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God, whom you serve so faithfully, able to rescue you from the lions?" Daniel answered, "Long live the king. May God send his angels to shut the lion's mouth, so that they would not hurt me. For I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty." The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted from the den. Not a scratch was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. Then the king gave orders to arrest the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He had then had them thrown into the lion's den, along with their wives and children. The lions leaped on them and tore them apart before they even hit the floor of the den. Then King Darius sent his message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world. "Peace and prosperity to you. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and he will endure forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed. His rule will never end. He rescues and saves people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. So, as you can tell, Daniel was not moved or changed by any of the laws because God was his power, right? Daniel knew that, okay, if I go and continue praying and do the things that I normally do, it would cost me my life. But he continued to pray like he always did. And it wasn't that Daniel's courage, began because he knew, okay, if I did this, I'm going to be put into the lion's den. It began in his moment in prayer. And there was no wavering. And a lot of people think of Daniel's courage into the lion's den as this, this courage, but it's about not denying God in front of anybody and any law of any kind at any point in any moment of your life. And I think that that is just beyond more powerful than anything else that Daniel could truly teach us. And this courage that he has is built in this private devotion when you have these moments. I'm sure you hear a lot of people say, you talk about the secret place with God that you have, and these conversations and these prayers that you have with God when it's just you and him. No matter if it's multiple times a day, if it's twice a day, if it's once a day, whatever it is that you do, it's going to give you the strength to be very public about this because you also do it in private. So Daniel has served 4 different kingdoms, right? All their governments changed a little bit. It was from one to another. And, kingdoms, they rose and they fell. And Daniel was consistent throughout it all because of God's faithfulness, the love that he had for Daniel. And a lot of people talk about Daniel being one of the most significant prophetic books, right? Because God gave Daniel visions of and this ability to interpret things of future kingdoms and all of these things. As we go into chapter 7, it's going to, we're going to be talking about the 4 beasts. And this is when it really talks about the coming of the Messiah, the ultimate kingdom, which we've already learned about, is talking about the kingdom that's going to reign over everything. So earlier during the first year of King Belshazzar's reign in Babylon, Daniel had had a dream and saw visions as he lay in his bed. He wrote down the dream, and this is what he saw. In my vision that night, I, Daniel, saw a great storm churning the surface of a great sea, and the strong winds blowing from every direction. Then 4 huge beasts came up out of the water, each different from one another. The first beast was like a lion with eagle's wings. As I watched, its wings were pulled off, and it was left standing with 2 hind feet on the ground, like a human being, and it was given a human mind. Then I saw a second beast, and it looked like a bear. It was rearing up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth, yet between its teeth. I heard a voice saying, "Get up, devour the flesh of many people." Then the third of these strange beasts appeared, and it looked like a leopard. It had 4 birds' wings on its back, and had 4 heads. Great authority was given to this beast. Then in my other vision that night I saw a fourth beast, terrifying, dreadful, and very strong. It devoured and crushed its victims with huge iron teeth and trampled their remains beneath its feet. It was different from any of the other beasts, and it had 10 horns. As I was looking at the horns, suddenly another small horn appeared among them. 3 of the first horns were torn out of the roots to make room for it. This little horn had eyes like human eyes and a mouth that was boastingly arrogant. I watched as the thorns were put in place, and the Ancient One sat down to judge. His clothing was as white as snow, his hair was as purest wool. He sat on a fiery throne with wheels of blazing fire, and a river of fire was pouring out, flowing from his presence. Millions of angels ministered to him, many millions stood to attend him. Then the court began its session, and the books were opened. I continued to watch because I could hear the little horns boastfully speak. I kept watching till the fourth beast was killed and its body was destroyed by fire. The other 3 beasts had their authority taken from them, but were allowed to live a while longer. As my vision continued that night, I saw someone like the Son of Man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient One and was led into his presence. He was given authority, honor, and sovereignty in all over the whole nations of the world, so the people that every race and nation and language would obey him. His rule is eternal. It will never end. His kingdom will never be destroyed. I, Daniel, was troubled by all that I had seen, and my visions terrified me. So I approached one of those standing beside the throne and asked him what it all meant. He explained to me like this: These 4 huge beasts represent 4 kingdoms that will arise from the earth, but in the end, the holy people of the Most High will be given the kingdom, and they will rule forever and ever. Then I wanted to know what the true meaning of the fourth beast, and the one that was different from the others and so terrifying. It had devoured and crushed its victims with iron teeth and bronze claws, trampling their remains beneath its feet. I also asked about the 10 horns on the fourth beast's head, and the little horn that came up afterwards and destroyed 3 of the other horns. This horn had seemed greater than the others, and it had human eyes and a mouth that was boasting arrogantly. As I watched, the horn was waging war against God's holy people and was defeating them, until the Ancient One, the Most High, came and judged in favor of his holy people. Then the time arrived for the holy people to take over the kingdom. Then he said to me, "The fourth beast is the 4th world power that will rule the earth. It will be different from all the others. It will devour the whole world, trampling and crushing and everything in its path. Its 10 horns are 10 kings who will rule that empire. Then the other king will arise, different from the other 10, who will subdue 3 of them. He will defy the Most High and oppress the holy people of the Most High. He will try to change their sacred festivals and laws. They will be placed under his control for some times and half a time. Then the court will pass judgment, and all his power will be taken away and completely destroyed. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to the holy people of the Most High. His kingdom will live forever, and the rulers will serve and obey him." That was the end of the vision. I, Daniel, was terrified of my thoughts, and my face was pale with fear, but I kept these things to myself. I don't know about you, but that surely sounds like something familiar in the end times. I find it so amazing to understand that throughout our time together in the weekly word, and that we're halfway through, that we've come to this point that no matter where we're at from the very beginning until now, the Holy One, right? The Messiah, the one to save the world, is talked about multiple times. And even though the things of the world have changed, right? And how things move and differ, and it seems different, right? Because they're not in the same place, or people were exiled, or things ended and they were out of the wilderness, and all of these things coming into one. There is things that remain the same, and that's God, regardless of what is going on. Now, Daniel's life truly reminds us that integrity isn't tested when life is easy, but it's revealed when compromise is an easier option, right? And Daniel really stands firm in God's strength, no matter how crazy the visions are, no matter how difficult certain things may seem. Daniel stays true. And there is a prayer from Daniel, and I would like to end this with this here. It was the first year, and this is chapter 9. It was the first year of the reign of Darius the Mede, the son of Ahasuerus, who became king of the Babylonians. During the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, learned from reading the word of the Lord, as revealed to Jeremiah the prophet, that Jerusalem must lie desolate for 70 years. So I turned to the Lord God and pleaded with him in prayer and fasting. I also wore rough burlap and sprinkled myself with ashes. I prayed to the Lord my God and confessed, O Lord, you are a great and awesome God. You will always fulfill your covenant and keep your promises of unfailing love to those who love you and obey your commands. But we have sinned and done wrong. We have rebelled against you and scorned your commands and regulations. We have refused to listen to your servants and the prophets who spoke unto your authority to our kings and princes and ancestors, to all the people of the land. Lord, you are in the right, but as you see, our faces are covered with shame. This is true, all of us, including the people of Judah and Jerusalem and all of Israel, scattered near and far, wherever you have driven us because of our disloyalty to you. O Lord, we and our kings, princes, and ancestors are covered with shame because we have sinned against you. But the Lord our God is merciful and forgiving, even though we have rebelled against him. We have not obeyed the Lord, though we have rebelled against him. We have not obeyed the Lord our God, for we have not followed the instructions he gave us through his servants and his prophets. All Israel have disobeyed your instruction and turned away, refusing to listen to your voice. So now the solemn curses and judgments written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, have been poured down on us because of our sin. You have kept your word and done to us and our rulers exactly as you warned. Never has there been such a disaster as what has happened in Jerusalem. Every curse written against us in the law of Moses has come true. Yet we have refused to seek mercy from the Lord our God by turning from our sins and recognizing his truth. Therefore the Lord has brought upon us this disaster he prepared. The Lord our God has the right to do all these things, for we did not obey him. O Lord our God, you brought lasting honor to your name by rescuing your people from Egypt in a great display of power. But we have sinned and are all full of wickedness. In view of all your faithful mercies, Lord, please turn your furious anger away from your city of Jerusalem, your holy mountain. All the neighboring nations mocked Jerusalem, and your people became of our sin and the sins of our ancestors. O our God, hear your servant's prayer. Listen as I plead. For your own sake, Lord, smile again on your desolate sanctuary. O my God, lean down and listen to me. Open your eyes and see our despair. See how our city, your city, that bears your name, lies in ruins. We make this plea not because we deserve help, but because of your mercy. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, listen and act. For your own sake, do not delay. O my God, for your people and your city bear your name. Daniel is so powerful because he really talks about the end time. And before Daniel passes, and he talks and he continues to talk about the anointed one. And he talks about God, and he talks about what is going to happen in the end. In chapter 12, there's a lot that happens from 10 to 12. But in 12, it says, "At that time, Michael, the archangel, who stands guard over your nation, will arise. There will be a time of anguish greater than any since nations first came into existence. But at the time of your people whose name is written in the book will be rescued. Many of those whose bodies lie dead and buried will rise up, some to everlasting life and some to shame, and some to everlasting disgrace. Those who will rise will shine as bright as the sky, and those who lead many to righteousness will shine like stars forever. But you, Daniel, keep this prophecy a secret. Seal up this book until the time of the end. When many will rush here and there, knowledge will increase." Then I, Daniel, looked and saw two others standing on the opposite banks of the river. One of them asked the man dressed in linen, who was now standing above the river, "How long will it be until these shocking events are over?" The man dressed in linen, who was standing above the river, raised both his hands towards heaven and took a solemn oath by the one who lives forever, saying, "It will go on for a time, times and half a time. When the shattering of the holy people has finally come to an end, all these things will have happened." I heard what he said, but I did not understand what it meant. So I asked, "How will all this finally end, my lord?" But he said, "Go now, Daniel, for what I have said is kept secret and sealed until the time of the end. Many will be purified, cleansed, and refined by these trials, but the wicked will continue in their wickedness, and none of them will understand. Only those who are wise will know what it means. From the time of the daily sacrifice is stopped, and the sacrilegious object that caused desecration is set up to be worshipped, there will be 1,290 days. And blessed are those who wait and remain till the end of the 1,335 days. As for you, go your way until the end. You will rest, and then at the end of the days you will rise again to receive the inheritance set aside for you." Thank you for being here with me today. Thank you for going through Daniel and truly understanding that no matter what it is that we go through, is to continue to have the faith, continue to believe in God, believe in his miracles, signs, and his wonders, and how miraculous and wonderful he truly is. And that from the very beginning of all things and of time, this is how it was. And I think it's so beautiful to know that even from the beginning it was already set. And it's not that I didn't know that, but it's just these reconfirmations of things. And some people may relate to Daniel more than they do Ezekiel, or Jeremiah and Nehemiah, or the Songs of Solomon, or any of those things. But I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for you. We are halfway through, and I hope you just have the best week ever, whatever it is that you are doing. And review Daniel again this week, and really listen to the things that Daniel is saying, as he is interpreting things and understanding, because he has the gift of God on him. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next week.